عدل والحق. Justice, we are there. نرتضي الموت, we love death. ونأبى أن نهون في سبيل ذا. Never ever accept anyone put us down. As a Muslim, don't let anyone put you down. I am Muslim. ولله العزة ولرسوله وللمؤمنين ولكن المنافقين لا يعلمون. We have dignity from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because I tried for Prophet Mohamed Aly. You do want to put me down because that before I was officer in Egyptian army. Everyone respect me because I have some stars. When I tried practice Islam, when I tried follow Prophet Mohamed Aly, some bad idiot, some bad ignorant try to put me down. Never ever. Alhamdulillah. And I believe it, my time come. As the time of Shaykh Yusuf came, when he's 90, my time come. When we don't know Allah, when Allah want to take our soul, we must be ready. We must try practice every second of our life. La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. My recommendation, try tonight, listen to Nasheed's name, Muslimun, Muslimun, Muslimun. The guy he said Nasheed's name, Abu Mazin from Syria. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive our Shaykh. Me, why must respect the scholar? Because our Prophet Mohamed Aly said, Al-ulama warathatul anbiya. Al-ulama, the real scholar not go behind dollars or money. The real scholar he tries to spread La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, especially with ignorant people. When people attack them, it's okay. Well, Allah said, command us, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. We have very good patience, alhamdulillah. We're not weak. Alhamdulillah, we have dignity. And we control our anger. Alhamdulillah, because we learned that from Prophet Muhammad alayhi. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala combine our Imam, our Shaykh, Yusuf Qaradawi, with the Nabiyyina, والصديقين, والشهداء, والصالحين, وحسن أولئك رفيقا. جزاكم الله خير.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Subhanallah, we hear about Shaykh Yusuf Qardawi. We remember Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam. When he tried to spread the da'wah with every way he can do. He tried to go day and night. He tried to lick the doors of the people, make it as da'wah with secret and with public, with everywhere. And it's not easy to be good da'i, to stand for the truth. And because that they put him in the jail. And he has a point. He has long poet about how the problem in the jail and how kind of punishment they used to make with them. And the end of a few lines of this poet of Yusuf Qardawi, they call it Nuriyat Yusuf Qardawi because it ends with Nun and Ya. He said, ضع في يديك تالله ما الطغيان يهزم دعوة يوما وفي التاريخ بر يميني. ضع في يدي القيد ألهم أضلعي بالصوت ضع عنقي على السكين لن تستطيع حصار فكري ساعة أو نزع إيماني ونور يقيني. فالنور في قلبي وقلبي في يدي ربي وربي ناصري ومعيني. سأعيش معتصما بحبل عقيدتي وأموت مبتسما ليحيا ديني. He said to Allah, I swear by Allah, not Tughyan, the people try to fight this da'wah, kings or any president or anybody as Tughyan. Tughyan, to go beyond the humanity. Don't think about the people, kill without thinking about anything. But he said, I swear by Allah, nobody can stop the da'wah of Allah. No matter how much he has power. تالله ما الطغيان يهزم دعوة يوما وفي التاريخ. You need to make sure about that. Ask the history. وفي التاريخ بر يميني. ضع في يدي القيد ألهم أطلعي. If you like to put the chain in my hands, you can do that. ألهم أطلعي. You can hit me with your stick. ألهم أطلعي بالصوت, with stick, with hot stick. ضع عنقي على السكين. You can put the knife on my neck. You can do all of these things. لن تستطيع. You do everything with my body, but you cannot do. لن تستطيع حصار فكري يا سعادة. What's in my mind? You cannot control it. ساعة, even 1 hour, you cannot control that. أو نزع إيماني, you cannot take my faith. ونور يقيني, the light in my heart. Why? He said, فالنور, this light is in my heart. And my heart between hands of Allah. فالنور في قلبي وقلبي في يد ربي. And Allah will support me. وربي ناصري ومعين. سأعيش, I will live in this life. معتصما, and make my religion, faith, and my faith protecting me. وأموت, I will smile even if I die for this, for the seeking of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Again, I would say it again with Arabic language, repeat it, inshallah. Tallahi, this is last 4 lines. You can go at the Google and see the whole
haram, he said to me, I do take the ijtihad of Imam Shaykh Yusuf al-Qardawi because he reached to the level of ijtihad al-mutlaq, which is rarely, sometimes 100, 200, 300 years pass on the ummah and no one reaches that level. So that's why I guess it's a big deal for all of us in this field who learned, and from his books, I didn't meet him, I wouldn't claim that I met him or seen him, but I've seen his effect, the ripples effect, all the way from Egypt to Jordan, Palestine, Syria, Lebanon, all the way. And now after things got translated to English, it's even going beyond to the whole world. And Shaykh Yusuf came so many times to conferences, like in Chicago,
Before he gets banned.
before he got banned, right? But so many conferences here. So even Muslims in America, you know, he used to be asked the most difficult questions about fiqh of us and fiqh al-aqalliyat, the minorities fiqh. Someone really, really respectable. I want to stop here. Jazakumullah khair. A very emotional time for all of us. I feel like I lost a father, and truly a father of knowledge. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have his mercy. And subhanallah, how this thread of ilm, yani, as long as there's people like that, you say the ummah has khair in it, alhamdulillah, because the ilm gets taken away when the ulama get taken away. So alhamdulillah, this ummah is still graduating a lot of good scholars. Shaykh Yusuf, so many people learn from him that now are walking in the footsteps of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba and this, and in his own footsteps, which is good, comforting to the heart of the believer. Jazakumullah khair wa salam alaykum.
Now we listen to the younger generation.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Yusuf al-Qardawi, the Shaykh, the first time that we heard about it, it was in 2011. I think that all of you are aware. 2011 is when Morsi became the president of Misr. And during these times we were there. So before Mubarak was overthrown, I was studying in Egypt at the time. And right after he was overthrown and Yusuf Qardawi came to give the khutbah, we were like, you know, it's going to be in Tahrir, there's going to be space for us. Let's pray Fajr, do our dhikr, read some Quran, and then we head out. We prayed in the masjid, and there was a group of us brothers, and all of us were from the West, and we were like, you know, we read our Quran, we did our dhikr, and we used to live maybe 15 minutes away from Tahrir Square. And we used to have to go there whenever we have to renew our iqamah, our visas. So we're like, it takes 15 minutes. We're going after Fajr. Khutbah's going to be later in the day. We're going to make it. So we're like, khalas, the sun comes up. We're praying shuruq. We're like, let's go. We get out and we try to stop the taxis. It says, where are you going? We're going to Maidan Tahrir. We're going to Tahrir Square. It's like, I can't go there. The road's blocked. I'm like, okay, let this one go. He doesn't want money. The next one. We spent like 20 minutes until we realized no one is going to take us. And then we started looking, on social media. We started looking at the TVs that are in our homes, and people had already started preparing for this khutbah. And we knew there's no way we're going to make it. So even though I was there, I was one of the many unfortunate people that had to watch the khutbah, the recording of it after we went to our normal khutbahs. And in that time, really, 2011, after he came and he gave the khutbah and he went back, there was so much talk about him that every masjid you went to, people would say, do you know Yusuf al-Qardawi is here? Do you know that he came? Do you know that that he was here? And there were so many conferences that we were told Yusuf al-Qardawi is going to be there, and we were like, khalas, let us go. We get there, oh, he couldn't come today. He was busy at this place. So alhamdulillah, I've never had the chance of actually seeing him, but I can say that we were in the same country at the same time, alhamdulillah. And then he went back to Qatar. And I think, when I think of him, I want to talk about the book that was mentioned earlier, Al-Halal al-Haram fi Islam. This is a book that was written in the 60s. So 1960, it gets published. This is a very long time ago. And to understand the level of a book, you don't look at what the people that actually buy it and are students and are learning from it say about it. Because what do we know about halal and haram for us to say this is a good book or not? So you look at the scholars and what type of attention they paid to this book. It was published in 1960. By 1978, Shaykh Albani comes, rahimahullah, and he says, this is a book that is here. What I have to do now is I'm going to look at every hadith that he has brought and tell you which one's authentic and which is not authentic. And if you look at Shaykh Albani, rahimahullah, he doesn't do this to every single book. He only does it to books that are very important and they have a high status in the deen. You look at all of the books that he has done, takhrij of looking at the hadith, it's not books that are written by what we would call scholars. These are books that are written by real scholars. People that have spent years and years and years learning, and their book actually has value. And because of the value that it has, you look at Riyadh al-Salihin. This is a book that Imam Albani comes and he says, I'll tell you what hadith are authentic, and other people besides him. And then recently you've even had books that have been written either in criticism of this book or in praise of the book. Now what does this tell you? That there are other scholars that are paying attention to this work. From there, that just shows you that this is not just a simple book that we say, he wrote it, alhamdulillah, we have access to it, and we read it. It is a book even our scholars read. Even our scholars comment on and say, these are the things that, like Shaykh Albani, when he was doing the takhrij, he was, in the beginning, he says, this was a man that was given really knowledge of fiqh, to be able to do it like this. This knowledge that he was given, it's not given to everybody. And he says all of us, and this is a sign of being humble. So Shaykh Albani, he says all of us were given very little knowledge. And from that little knowledge, the fiqh, the understanding of fiqh that he was given, is like no other. Right? So this is, a very, very important book. Not only has it been translated into English, it's been translated into so many other languages. I guarantee you, if any of us were to look in our native languages, we'll most likely find it. Right? This is a book published in 1960. We can go and look at it today. We can look at people that have explained it, and there's a lot of benefit that you find in it. Right? His goal when he wrote it was, fiqh. 100% you're always going to have disagreements in it. But if you were to go and pick up a book of fiqh without a teacher, you cannot read it. You will not understand it. There's so many things that you have to have prior before you go and open up a fiqh book. But this book, it was written with that understanding, but how can I make it, everyone can look at it and benefit from it. And that's why really it's an amazing book. And one thing that I'll say about Shaykh Yusuf Qardawi was that when you reach a certain level, there's this kibr that comes to you that you can never be wrong, that you are always right. Especially, when you start seeking knowledge, generally it happens in the beginning. The first time that you memorize one hadith, you learn one thing, khalas. I've become a scholar, no one can tell me anything else. So this happens in the beginning, and then when you don't go far in your studies, what will happen is you begin to have kibr on the opinions that you hold. How many times do you find from Shaykh Yusuf Qardawi where he will admit himself, and not like in a gathering like this where it's us four, and I say, that thing I said the other day, I made a mistake. Where he goes on TV and he's like, this was a mistake that I made, I should have went with what these other mashayikh had told me, and he would admit it on live TV where millions of people are going to watch. And this is not, to be able to do that, especially on a thing that he fought for, on a thing that he truly believed, like this is the truth. And then once he realized this is not the way I should have listened to these other people, to come out and say, you know what, I was wrong. This is something that you're not going to find amongst many people. And it is really, a sign of what he said, what Shaykh Muhammad shares was in the beginning. Wherever the truth is, and wherever justice is, you're going to find us there. We can all say that. But how many of us when are the things that we hold dear are questioned, and we know to us this was the truth, or we believe that this was the truth, when actual truth is shown to us, how many of us are going to say, I submit myself to this? So this is the person that he was, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on him, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate him, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive him for his sins, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive you and I for our sins. Sallallahu sallam ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.
Inshallah, jazakumullah khairan all. So inshallah, the next episode in the program is that we will try to go through some of the milestones and the stops of his life. Some of the major milestones of his life. or the real kind of standing out incidents in his life. So we'll start with his education. And like I will go and mention some facts, and then I will ask the Shaykh to give comments about them. So first, the Shaykh did memorize Quran when he was 10, or when he was actually younger than that. He was born in a village called Saft al-Turab, and this is in Muhaddat al-Gharbiyya, in the territory of al-Gharbiyya in Egypt. And then he went to Al-Azhar. So in Egypt, there is a track for studying Islamic knowledge and school, both of them. It's in Al-Azhar. So he went and finished his secondary school, which means the high school, in Al-Azhar, and he was the second. He was ranked as the second among all the students in Al-Azhar in Egypt. And then afterwards, he went to the faculty of Usul al-Din, the fundamentals of the Deen, of religion, in Al-Azhar University. And then he got the bachelor in 1953, and he was the first among his classmates, and they were 180 students. And then afterwards, he got the ijazah of al-tadris, like the license to actually teach, in 1954 from Kulliyat al-Lugha al-Arabiyya. Now, like, pay attention to the diversity of knowledge that we are talking about here. First, he did study in Al-Azhar, and then he studied in Kulliyat Usul al-Din, the faculty of the fundamentals of the religion, and then he got the ijazah from the faculty of the Arabic language. And he was, again, the first amongst all the graduates of Al-Azhar, right? And they were 500 by then. And then afterwards, he got the diploma, the high diploma in Islamic studies. And this was in 1958. And then in 1960, the same year where he actually authored this book, Al-Halal wal-Haram, he got the master's in Ulum al-Quran wa Sunnah. Ulum al-Quran wa Sunnah, the master's, right? And from Kulliyat Usul al-Din. And then in 1973, he got his PhD in what? You think in what? Completely different type of knowledge. His PhD thesis was الزكاة وأثرها في حل المشاكل الاجتماعية. Like the الزكاة and its role in solving the societal problems. So you see the amount of diversity that he did go throughout his education. Any of the Shaykh, give us like the comments about his diversity. Shaykh Mohammed, go ahead.
Okay, we'll start what the last book is Zakat. When he went to Indonesia and Malaysia, they follow Shafi'i way. In Shafi'i say he must be Zakat only about four things. And he said, no, you must be Zakat about everything you have. What does it mean Zakat? Take some money from rich people to poor people. See, want to benefit to the poor in this country. But subhanAllah, the country in Malaysia and Indonesia, I think I translated rubber. Saying you must pay Zakat to take care about poor people. I asked him why he said that opinion. He said, because must take care about poor. Islam came to take care about poor people. Okay? And the rich people, he can pay Zakat. And may Allah say from him, change opinion all two countries to follow opinion Hanif way. But he told me you must study all madhab to learn how can practice the best way to spread real Islam. May Allah say from him.
About Shaykh Yusuf Qardawi, you can see something amazing. His mind is not the mind just see the steps and go with the same way the people they go. He tried to see the way, new way to make the people, to make Islam easy for everyone. And subhanAllah, I believe if somebody try to read Shaykh Yusuf Qardawi books, he will become another person. Not just Al-Halal al-Haram, because Al-Halal al-Haram is old book, and a lot of scholars they talk about Halal al-Haram. But we have a lot of things in our life. Nobody touched that side except Shaykh Yusuf Qardawi. The one he tried to study, as the Shaykh or Brother Mohammed said, to study different kind of Sharia, of ways of Sharia. I need just to say about some books. First book is The Behaviors, Khuluq al-Muslim, The Behaviors of Muslims. I used to teach this book for halaqat, and it's from the best books you can teach to yourself and your children. You can make it as a family night every week to raise your children from 0 level to become 1 level. This is important book. You have to read it, you have to study it with your family. Khuluq al-Muslim. It's with English. We have it with English translation. Second book is Jaddid Hayat. You know, when I read about in this book, I read in this book how he talk about somebody as Dale Carnegie. Is Dale Carnegie or Dale Carnegie? He's not Muslim. Even this book, I read his book, Dale Carnegie's books, long time ago. When I tried to give it to someone in the masjid, he told me, Shaykh, this is for kafir. We cannot read this book. Shaykh Qardawi, take some from this book and put in his book that to tell the people al-hikmah ضالة المؤمن. The wisdom, it's you can take it from anywhere and you can use it. And he gives some examples in this book, Jaddid Hayat. Take it from Dale Carnegie. And he said this for this man and this book, Jaddid Hayat. And he said how to make like from something sour to put some honey on it and make it as lemonade. This is like an example from this book, and he put it there. And actually, a lot of things in our life, if we keep it as is, will make our life miserable. But if we try to make this sour thing, try to add some honey on it, you will change it to be good, and you live with it, and you make it very good thing, and you're gonna get a lot of benefits from it, and spread a lot of benefits with it. And other book, third one, I don't need to mention all of his books, but this is 3 important book. You have to read it. You have to tell your children to read. Jaddid Hayat, Khuluq al-Muslim, the behavior of Muslim, renew your life, the behavior of Muslim. Third one is كيف تتعامل مع القرآن. كيف تتعامل مع القرآن. The way how to deal with Quran. It's important. Books, these 3 books, try to go Google it and try to read it. Study to your children. Believe me, you will raise your level of your children Islamically from 0 to make them as professional Muslims.
We move on to the next incident, and which is in his life. His dad passed away when he was 2-year-old. So he was born 1926, so his dad passed away in 1928. And then, this is the other episode in his life. Him and jail. He was jailed 3 times by the time of Abdul Nasser. He was jailed in 1949. Actually, before that, by the time of the kingdom. So when Egypt was a kingdom, 1949. And then he was jailed 3 times by the time of Abdul Nasser, 1954, and then in January 1954, and then in November 1954, and then in 1963. And all of that, it's because of his opinions and his visions in Islam, and that the fact that he did not want to take it easy with the rulers. Being jailed for the sake of Allah.
I think I mentioned it in my speech, the idea that these people paid a heavy price, and it did not make them waver or change. And we're not talking about being in detention center in the United States of America. We're talking about the jails of the Arab world, where there's no lawyers, no one can get you out of there. except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They even, when the expression that is given in our local cultures is they took him behind the sun. And behind the sun, you can't even look at the sun, imagine behind the sun, total. So that's the situation. So they will torture you, they will beat you to death, they won't care. So for you to come out and then say the same thing that will upset the government and then be jailed and get beaten, and then they will release you, then you say the same thing, that's steadfastness, on the path of Allah. The other thing regarding his education, this man is of a high IQ. This man, if he studied any other science, probably he would have had the Nobel Prize, but there is no Nobel Prize for the best Muslim scholar. So Allah will give it to him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is what we call mujaddid. There is a beautiful hadith that Rasulullah said, Allah sends to this ummah someone that will renew its faith for it every 100 years. I believe that within this last 100 years, from the 1920s, there's definitely Shaykh Hassan al-Banna, who started this whole movement, and the fruits of Shaykh Hassan al-Banna, Shaykh Qardawi, Shaykh Ghazali, Shaykh Al-Hudaybi before that. These people were, and so many people benefited from that. So he's definitely one of those who renewed the faith of the Ummah.
Next milestone. He went to Qatar, he moved to Qatar in 1961, and he moved in a very authentic way, by the way. He was sent by the Egyptian government to go and to teach in Qatar. So first he went and he was the director for Al-Ma'had al-Dini, the religious center for high school in Qatar. And then afterwards he got his citizenship, the Qatari citizenship. And then afterwards in 1977 he founded Kulliyat al-Sharia wa al-Dirasat al-Islamiyya, the Sharia and Islamic Studies faculty in Qatar University. And in 1990. And then he also was the director of the Center for Prophetic Research, the Sunnah Research in Jami'at Qatar. Now, talking about his books, and actually this is where I would love to spend some time. So, if you go about the diversity of his books and the amount of knowledge that he tried to develop and he tried to enrich, you just get amazed. So, like different members in the panel did talk about Al-Halal wal-Haram in Islam. But I'll tell you about some other books, right? And if any of you does have comments about these books, please feel free to step in right away. So, 100 سؤال عن الحج والعمرة والأضحية. 100 questions about Hajj and Umrah and Udhiyah. Just like follow the diversity, right? Fatawa Ma'asira, contemporary fatwas. Like you will find him always trying to live our life. He's not talking about the life of the Sahaba. He's talking about our life. How do we live our life? How do you make it easy for Muslims to live their lives? تيسير الفقه للمسلم المعاصر. Making it like simplifying fiqh for the contemporary Muslim. Again, living our life. من فقه الدولة في الإسلام. Moving on to the fiqh of the dawla, the actual republic, or like how the nation is to be run in Islam. And then talking about the basics. فقه الزكاة, فقه الطهارة, and فقه الصيام. The fiqh of zakah and siyam and purification, right? And then في فقه الأقليات المسلمة, something which is very relevant to us, like in the fiqh of the the Muslim minorities, like you and me. And then now talking about how do you make it easy to study branches of religion, like for example, المدخل لدراسة الشريعة الإسلامية, the introduction to study the Sharia, the Islamic Sharia. And then another one, moving on, something which like doesn't come to your, do you know transplantation? Do you know transplantation? Whenever like you transplant an organ, like someone who is having a disease and so on. زراعة الأعضاء في دور الشريعة الإسلامية. Like how do you study? What is the whole ruling of transplantation in light of the Islamic Sharia? Any comments so far? Any comments about the books that I did mention so far? You didn't comment. Because I'll have more books.
I think if we just read the books, all of these names, what do they mean to us? Right? These are all great books that he has written. And this is a sign of someone's scholarship, that not only are they able to talk, but they're able to put this in writing. One book, that was very controversial. And I don't know if our brother Mohammed is going to mention it, but it really shows you, what type of person he was the book that he wrote known as Fiqh al-Jihad, right? The Fiqh of Jihad. Now, the rulings that pertain to fighting, to striving. If you look at this, one of the, I think we mentioned here, he was influenced by who? Imam Hassan al-Banna. What movement did Imam Hassan al-Banna find? What did he find? The Ikhwan, right? The Muslim Brotherhood. If we look at the Muslim Brotherhood, and we look at their spiritual figures and books that they have written, what would you say if we were to look at tafsir and really understanding would be at the top of this list? Sayyid Qutb, without doubt. We can all agree. Was Yusuf Qardawi part of the Muslim Brotherhood? Yes or no? Yes, he was jailed 3 times for it. When he wrote Fiqh al-Jihad, if you look at the Fiqh al-Jihad, he is going in there against some of the things that Sayyid Qutb said. And do you know how much ikhlas that you have to have? That you're not criticizing an outsider. You're not going against the opinions of someone that is not in the same, doesn't have the same understanding. But someone that you yourself look up to and see as, this high caliber scholar, you're saying, you know what? This is how it should really be. Right? So this is a wonderful book that he wrote, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted from him, that he clarifies some, what our understandings when it comes to jihad should be. It's obviously not translated into English. Maybe the future somebody will do it, inshallah.
Okay, moving on because of time. So, few other books, like Fawaid al-Bunuk hiya riba al-haram. The interest, the interest of the bank interests is the haram riba, right? So, دور القيم والأخلاق في الاقتصاد الإسلامي. Like the role of morals in Islamic finance and Islamic transactions and so on. Look at how deep he is. And then the ones that Shaykh Ibrahim did mention, كيف نتعامل مع القرآن العظيم وكيف نتعامل مع السنة النبوية. How do we deal with Al-Quran? And this is one of the most amazing books that can teach you how do you actually build a relationship with Quran. And كيف نتعامل مع السنة النبوية. And then the final thing, توحيد. حقيقة التوحيد والإيمان بالقدر. So like the truth of oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and believing in destiny. I'm not sure whether all of these books are translated into English or not, but some of them are, and some of them I think are going to be translated. And finally, talking about the heart and the state of the heart and so on, there are books about intention and tawakkul and tawbah and wara' wa zuhd and muraqaba and muhasaba, like observing oneself. Right? So these are the books. And obviously, I would advise you, just because of time, we won't be able to go through the prizes. We got all the prizes that you could think of from the different countries in Islam. The final, I think, stop that I would have here is an interaction which is really amazing. An interaction, Shaykh Qaradawi is from the school of Al-Wasatiyya, from the school of the moderate school, right? There are other shuyukh from other madhahib, other schools, right? One of the major schools is the school of the Salafi school, right? Shaykh Abdul Aziz al-Dibas was one of the leaders of the Salafi school. And he is from Saudi Arabia, obviously, right? So, many of us, when we are, as Imam Fouad did mention, we are not that educated. We don't know what it means to have an ikhtilaf, to have diversity and difference of opinion while respecting each other. And typically, al-ikhtilaf is not in the basics, is not in the fundamentals. Al-ikhtilaf is always in the peripherals of the religion. So, after he authored 1960, he authored this book of Al-Halal wal-Haram. Saudi Arabia wanted to actually publish Al-Halal wal-Haram, so they went to the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia at that time, which was Ibn Baz, rahmatullahi. And then Ibn Baz studied the whole book, 400 pages. He didn't have any reservations except on 8 topics, only 8 topics. So Ibn Baz, rahmatullahi alayhi, sent a very, very polite and delicate message to Shaykh al-Qaradawi, sending to him, telling him that we studied your book and then we have reservations about these 8 topics. And some of the 8 topics are the dress of the woman, her work, some topics related to singing and like listening to music, some topics related to taking pictures, and some topics related to smoking, right? So Ibn Baz said, and I will quote this, but just I will quote two quotes, right? وإن كتبك لها وزنها وثقلها في العالم الإسلامي وقبولها العام عند الناس ولذا نتمنى لو تراجع هذه المسائل لتحظى بالقبول الإجماعي عند المسلمين. So your books do have their weight and do have their merit and their status in the minds and their acceptance for the public audiences, for all the audience. So we would love for you to revise these 8 topics in order for them to have a consensus among all the Muslims. So he is actually quoting, like Shaykh Qaradawi, he is quoting in his book, like the book talking about his life. He is in his biography. He is talking and relating this, the response that he made. And part of the response started with, I really respect you, Shaykh, and I really respect your opinion. And if I'm to change my opinion to anyone, any human being, I will change it for you just because of my love to you. But I'm not going to change it because this opinion is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he said, والمسائل التي ذكرتموها سماحتكم منها ما كان الخلاف فيها قديما وسيظل الناس يختلفون فيها ومحاولة رفع الخلاف في هذه القضايا غير ممكن. وقد بين العلماء أسباب الاختلاف وألفوا فيها كتبا لعل من أشهرها كتاب شيخ الإسلام رفع الملام عن الأئمة الأعلام. So he told him the topics that you did cover are among the topics that Muslims were having differences regarding, and they will continue to have differences regarding as well. So, like, story short, and he asked them at the end in a very polite way. He asked them at the end, can we allow the book? Like, I do hope that we allow the book to be published, and in order for the Muslims to actually benefit from it. Guess what? The book was published, and not only that, in the very same year, he went and he was, I think, invited to Hajj, and he has a photo with Shaykh Ibn Baz. And actually, you can see this photo. You can look it up, right? And it's not like they were pausing for a photo. It's just like someone took a photo. They were sitting right next to each other. And this is telling us that regardless of which madhab you are coming from, there is an etiquette for having differences amongst us. And like there is an etiquette for seeking Allah's pleasure, and we shall never agree on all the details. However, we shall agree on whatever we agree on while maintaining that highest level of respect. Just comments about this before we
Okay, Bismillah. I'm so sorry, I know it's too late. I must go to sleep early, wake up early to pray Fajr. Okay? Must finish it about what? We have different opinions between the Imam Abu Hanifa, Ahmad, Malik. Now if you ask us question, maybe Shaykh Ala has opinion, Shaykh Ibrahim has opinion, or Shaykh has opinion. It's okay, we must accept each other with respect. Okay? We can't bring all Muslims in one opinion. We can't force people to follow my opinion or Shaykh opinion. It's never ever. So I learned from Shaykh Qardawi, may Allah forgive him, and from Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, I meet Ibn Uthaymeen, Ibn Baz, Shaykh Qardawi. SubhanAllah, never ever accuse anyone kafir. Okay, we have different opinion. Maybe someone has some bid'ah, has some mistakes. It's okay. In Islamic way, we should accept each other. Allah is al-Ghaffar. May Allah subhanahu forgive all our sins. May Allah forgive any sins from our scholars. The scholars, what does it mean? He tried for Prophet Muhammad, alayhi salatu wasalam, and he should have some mistakes. But as my way, why I'm focused about mistakes? Who I am? Don't focus about mistakes to any scholars. Focus about something positive. I learned from all of them. May Allah accept from them. Now, Ibn Uthaymeen passed away, Ibn Baz passed away, Shaykh passed away, Mohamed Aly passed away. We should accept each other. Our different opinion, but inshallah when we come here in the masjid, must be as one man. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teach us the benefit to clean our heart from disease, from jealous, envy, and hatred. Say Ameen.
Any closing remarks?
Subhanallah, what we need to learn from Shaykh Yusuf Qardawi, he tried to make the deen easy. If you just try to read his books, it's everything we deal with. Even I just remember, like in the top of his book, the cover, they call it the time, and he put one kind of quote on it. دقات قلب المرء قائدة له إن الحياة دقائق وثواني. Just to know about the time, the heart, your heart, when he just or like this, it's telling you the life. It's as like seconds and minutes. This is on the cover of the in the side. It's small book. Inside of this book, he's telling you how to get a lot of benefits from your time to make it as gold, because the time is, it's gold. You can use it or you can just waste it. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us from the people. They get the hikmah from ulama and Shaykh, and together all of us, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, which Shaykh Yusuf Qardawi thereafter deserved.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on him and grant him the highest levels of Jannah. Inshallah, the last thing that I want to wrap this event up with is there was a book that he mentioned when he was talking to Shaykh bin Baz. And he says, he mentions a book by Shaykh al-Islam known as Raf'ul Malam. Wallahi, this is a book, one that has been translated to English, and a book that every single one of us should read. And the title of the book is Removing Blame from the Leaders of the Muslims. From the Imams, they had differences. There were so many things that they disagreed upon. But Shaykh al-Islam, he comes with this book, and he points to you, one, why this difference is always going to be there. And secondly, how you, outside of that level, outside of the levels of these imams, should be behaving with them. What have they sacrificed in order to get to this point? Right? We see Yusuf al-Qardawi, Shaykh, he didn't wake up one day and say, today, I'm going to start preaching Islam. He spent so many years learning to where you're not going to find someone that spends that time learning. And the reason why he reached a level to where all of the scholars are respecting his book and they're benefiting from it and they're looking at it is how much time that he spent learning. How many degrees and it's not really about the degrees. It's about how did he benefit himself from the knowledge that he learned. And then we see the fruits of it in these books that he wrote and in the impact that he has had in the Muslim world. And really, this should point us to, the vastness of this ummah and the ilm that we have, the access to it that we have. And inshallah, one last thing, we should begin really to praise our scholars while they are with us. It shouldn't be something that we do after they pass away. And Yusuf al-Qardawi, rahimahullah, he was with us 4 days ago. He was alive. But were we talking about him? No. But he had this knowledge was already there. These books were already ready. And there's so many scholars like him that, we need to be from those that we appreciate them while they're here and not just when they're after. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of his efforts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our efforts, forgive us our shortcomings, and reunite us in the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in Jannah. Ameen. Jazakumullah khair.
Brother Mohamed Aly wants to say something which is historical relevant. Shaykh Yusuf Qardawi came to United States in 1979. He he attended ISNA convention, Islamic Society of North America convention. And his book, Halal and Haram, was translated by Dr. Muin Siddiqui, who was the ISNA president. So one of his daughter was married at the ISNA convention by Shaykh Yusuf. So just wanted to say about the historical.
As long as you guys are coming to Fajr, it's okay.
I think we just take the Fajr.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm sorry to talk in front of the Mashaykh. No, but since we all love the Shaykh, now we love our religion. There's a one thing, there's a one way I understand. He's one of our best Shaykh. And in all the sense, we all know, al-ulama ورثة الأنبياء إنما يخشى الله من عباد العلماء ألا إن أولياء لا خوف عليهم ولا يحزنون. If we tell all of his best, why you guys don't tell he's one of the awliya Allah, the highest level after the Rasul, after the Anbiya? Because the Qardawi was one of the best Shaykh and one of the scholars, and he, since we know that the Alim al-Haqiqi أفضل من ألف عالم. So why we don't say he was one of the awliya Allah? So we know his level. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Shaykh Muhammad always says
we were waiting for you to say it. Make it easy because we gave you this opportunity. So alhamdulillah, you can say it.
Okay, Bismillah, Waliullah, me and you, Waliullah. Okay, why? Allah said in Quran, أَلَا إِنَّ أَوْلِيَاءَ اللَّهِ لَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Practice. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ. Me and you is Waliullah. What enemy of Allah? You must be a Waliullah or enemy of Allah. You are Abdullah or Abdul Shaitan, or you are worship to your desires. But alhamdulillah, all we are awliyaullah. Why not? But unfortunately, some people think Waliullah as something is very high, be better than the Prophet. Said no. Waliullah, me and you inshallah become Waliullah. Shaykh Yusuf Qardawi inshallah Waliullah.
Barakallahu feekum. Actually, the point that I was thinking to close with, we have to be impressed with our tradition. In America, when someone has a PhD, you're like, wow, they've mastered that level. So how long does it take you to take a PhD? 4 to 6 years in America. So what's the name of a degree that you take in 70 years?
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. This is our tradition. This is who we are. We have a system beyond what you have seen here. When I walked in Harvard, 350 years old, this and that. You walk in Al-Azhar, it's 1,000 years old. You walk in Al-Qarawiyyin, it's the first university in the world recognized by the United Nations. The first modern university was built by a woman. This is something we need to pass to our children. We need to be impressed by our own heritage. We're not any less. We are, inshallah, al-a'lawna in kuntum mu'minin. You want to make your
just like we mentioned that 1979, Shaykh al-Qaradawi was leading the actual janazah prayer upon Imam Abu al-A'la in India, right? Today, or few days ago, Shaykh al-Dadaw, who is from Mauritania, he is leading the janazah prayer in Qatar upon Shaykh al-Qaradawi. Islam has no barriers. Islam has no like these all countries and so on. They don't exist in our mindset.
And that was one of his accomplishments, creating Hayat Ulama al-Muslimin. Shaykh al-Qardawi established it. Gathered from every place, alhamdulillah. Allahumma aghfir lahu wa rahmatullahi. Allahumma nawwir alayhi qabrahu. Allahumma aj'al qabrahu rawdan min riyad al-jannah. Allahumma rabbil alamin ij'al jalisahu wa anisahu fi qabrihi 'amalahu as-salih ya rabbil alamin. Allahumma arihi maq'adahu min al-jannah ya rabbil alamin. اللهم بارك في ذريته من بعده يا رب العالمين وبارك في تلاميذه واجعلنا في ميزان حسناته يا رب العالمين يا أكرم الأكرمين. اللهم آمنا وآمنه يوم الفزع الأكبر يا رب العالمين واحشرنا مع النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وادخلنا الجنة بشفاعة رسولك الكريم وبشفاعة القرآن الكريم صلى الله عليه وسلم واجعلنا من الفائزين ومن المفلحين. اللهم أكرمنا واجعلنا من المتقين واجعلنا عندك من المكرمين. اللهم آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه.